Hello everyone and welcome back to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. We are very much focused on one of the best weeks in the calendar, the Grand National taking place at Aintree at the end of this week. Steve Ryder is alongside me and we welcome back to the show Ed Quigley. Ed, first of all, before we get into, obviously we're going to have a look back at some of the racing we've just seen and look forward to the Grand National, but for you, what sort of memories does National Week hold? What sort of memories does the race itself hold for you?
Really exciting ones, actually. Yeah, indeed. I mean, my earliest memories probably party politics.
Wow.
Mr. Frisk's kind of there, but party politics. Garrison, Savannah, Seagram, that kind of early 90s. But I always remember party politics. I had a toy car in not too dissimilar colours, you see. So, and then he became party politics. He was the best, and all the other toy cars had to kind of wait in line. So, yeah, early 90s was my kind of I
presume that was the biggest of the toy cars you had.
That was the biggest. Yeah. He might not even been the fastest, but he was after that. He was the champion. But no, yeah, the Grand National, always good fun. People talk about Cheltenham for its kind of its intensity and its Olympics, much more, I wouldn't say jovial atmosphere, but there's such a nice, relaxed atmosphere at Aintree. Always good fun. I haven't actually been since last the Tiger Rolls Grand National was the last time I was on course, and yeah, just different type of atmosphere, but it's electric and thoroughly enjoy it. And looking forward to this year's renewal.
Yeah, most racing fans, Steve, have a memory that's associated to the Grand National going back years, as Ed mentions about party politics. What about yourself?
I just remember being in my nan's house, kind of doing the whole sweepstake with your family and picking them all out and doing it that way, like growing up, which I think everyone has done throughout the years. But the first Grand National I attended, I actually backed the winner in Bala Briggs. So that's always going to be a fond memory looking back.
Just finally on sweepstakes, you've just jogged a memory here. 1993 did a sweepstake, and my late nan got S&S. Oh, no. So she's, yeah, that was it then. I'm not betting on that stupid race. That was what she was out then. She retired on the back of that.
Did she not claim on first past the post?
Wow, no? Yeah, I'll leave her to that argument. God bless her. But yeah, no, yes, you say quite a while ago now, but feels like yesterday.
And can I ask you both, last thing before we get into racing recap, is the race still as special in its current guise?
I don't get the buzz. I do, if I'm being blunt. I used to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still intrigued by it, but perhaps the compression of the weights, the classier horses getting to it. The days of the absolute boil over feel less and less likely now. Could be proven wrong once again, but I'm less worried by huge weights now. You've kind of just got to get round to an extent, and the class does seem to be coming to the fore by and large. But I mean, I still enjoy it. Yeah, just perhaps maybe it's a trick of nostalgia. When you're younger, you naturally do enjoy things maybe a little bit more. It's fresher and newer, but should still be a cracking renewal this time round.
And of course, we tend to remember things of years gone by more fondly than we do more recent things. Yeah. But does it still hold the magic for you, Steve?
Oh, of course it does. And last year when we had like sort of 10 jump in the last, all in contention, it's a different race now.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it.
It doesn't make it any less of an enjoyable race to watch, in my opinion.
Well, we will be talking about the Grand National a little bit later on, but first of all, it's this week's racing recap. And we start with the Irish version of the Grand National, the richest race run over jumps in Ireland. And quite simply, it was a magnificent plot and performance from Emmett Mullins, Soldier In Milan. He has been extremely well back for the race. He was extremely well back for the race for weeks. And bolted up.
He did bolt up. This is Emmett Mullins beforehand saying the only thing that could do him would be the inexperience factor. Well, clearly, we think he's well handicapped, but you never quite know, do you? That inexperience can tell in the big hurly-burly of that type of race. Look, he bolted up. I don't want to sound churlish, but there doesn't seem to be much talk about Kiss Will, who was absolutely tanking in many shape or form. It's a not too dissimilar type of horse. Kiss Will, more or less a novice in all but name, and he very lightly raced first try at the trip and was absolutely tanking into contention and had actually jumped really well. I was watching back the Kiss Will jump from Cheltenham. He was a little bit sticky going in perhaps a yard quicker than he wanted to over 2.5. Looked superb up until there. But look, take nothing away from the winner, as you say, clearly well handicapped, absolutely hacked up and an emphatic winner in the end.
And an extraordinary path to the Irish National, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Emmett Mullins and Paul Byrne, they just a breath of fresh air, I suppose, with doing things differently. I then look back at a few other ones, and Noble Yates won the Grand National in his 9th ever jumps run. Soldier in Milan was winning the Irish National on his 5th ever jumps run. You then go back to Ferranilli, he won a Grade 1 chase on his 4th ever jumps run. And it's, if you're good enough, let's chuck you into there. And the Irish National now is a race that novices do particularly well in, and a race that you need to be prominent at. And that, I suppose, is the only thing that could have caught Soldier in Milan out. I thought they were going a bit fast at the start. I'm glad that they let them off, because it was one of those starts that you look at and go, oh God, this is going to be a false start. But actually, it wasn't. They were away, and you really do need to be prominent in that. But yeah, I thought it was a brilliant performance. It wouldn't surprise me if he's then running at Aintree next season in the green and gold, and Harry Cobden on board, and it just depends how much he goes up in the weights for it.
Yeah. Well, they do go fast out of the traps, but then they slow it down a little bit, and it becomes a little bit of a, as you say, you want to be prominent in that sort of race. You mentioned Kiss Will as one of the horses maybe to keep an eye on, because he did travel really well under Paul Townend. Was there anything else in behind that was worthy of a mention? Anything to keep an eye on for the future?
I wouldn't totally give up on Jukebox Jury. He was jumping and travelling superbly until he absolutely left a hole in the fence down the back straight, and he was up there in the van. And
he seemed to struggle with the ditches.
He just seemed to, I think he made an error and then lost his confidence, and it just seemed to, maybe it was just that magnitude of race was just too soon for him in his career. But I think there's definitely mileage in the future. I wouldn't be putting a line through him. I think there's still scope off his mark. Yeah. Just needs to tighten up in the jumping department.
Okay. What about you, Steve?
No, I just think you need to have learnings from this race when you look at it again next year. Is just look at those lightly raced novices going into it, because even though Kiss Will obviously kind of had a few runs over fence, you just need a lightly raced horse who's got the likes of Better Days Ahead, who obviously was targeted at the race. They're just not well handicapped enough to win it.
No, and obviously trained by Emmett Mullins as well. Earlier in the week, Honeysuckle Mares Novice Hurdle went the way of Zanoosh, who's putting together an incredible run of victories.
Yeah, brilliant performance from the mare. Good ride by Brian Hayes, sorry, Rachel Blackmore's husband, as he was then described in the media afterwards. A fantastic performance by Colin Murphy as well. If you look at that, beaten on her first 3 starts over hurdles, and has now won 5 in a row, progressing from a rating of 112 up to 136 and winning a Grade 1.
She's the new Wadhu, isn't she?
Yeah, like she was just brilliant. I thought it was a clever ride as well. Changed course late on in order to sort of sneak up the inside. The right horses followed her home as well. You had Plastination and Charme de Faust, who obviously finished 3rd or 4th in the Mares Novice at the Cheltenham Festival. So the right horses were there around her, and there was absolutely no fluke, was there?
Yeah, and she is, what, 16 to 1 with Bet365 for the Mares Hurdle at the festival next year. What did you make of her performance?
Yeah, it's echo a lot of what Steve said there, really. Pretty smart performance. I mentioned Wadhu, interested, we'll come on to her later in terms of where she goes next year. They've got the vision that division could open up quite a bit, couldn't it? But those progressive mares, where is the ceiling of her ability? I don't think anyone knows really. And yeah, I mean, it's a long way off, but there is an argument. 16 to 1 does make some appeal. Going through the gears, who's to say she can't improve and ever? Yeah. 10, 12 pounds a stone going further forward. So the collateral form looks solid, looks strong. Plastination, I do think I've had her down as a proper stayer in time. I'd be interested if they went up, tried the 3-mile route at some point with that individual. But yeah, nice performance from the winner.
That was one of the Grade 1s on the Sunday. The other Grade 1 was the Willow Warm Gold Cup, which went the way of Fleur in the Park, who beat Kappa J Pike. Now, obviously a lot of drama in that race, but momentous day for Andy Slattery and Cian Quirk.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to be in it to win it. And this is a race which has left more answers than questions and answers, or the answers we've got, but we haven't got the questions to, whichever way you want to slice it up. Kappa J Pike's an interesting sort in terms of Danny Mullins was insinuating the horse wants 3 miles. Willie was saying a really strongly run 2 might suit, and there is a horse who skipped Cheltenham and came to the 2.5 miler here, and obviously the 6 mile bridge in there as well, and it was a bit of a messy encounter, wasn't it, really? My overall view is I want to say put the form in the bin. I think that's rude and that's out of place. Credit to Connections for the winner. I get the feeling we run this race 5 times, get 5 different kind of results, really. I think it's a muddling one, and it's end of season form as well. Which one of those to take forward, going further forward? On balance, probably Kappa J Pike, but I'm not entirely sure.
Well, I looked at the market before the race, and it seemed as if they couldn't really decide who should go off favourite for it. So it was muddling before, and it felt like it was muddling after.
Yeah, I think if you ran this another 5 times, though, I'd say Predator's Gold would probably win about 3 or 4 of them. I thought he was the best horse in the race. It was just a bit of an unfortunate fall as well, kind of slithered on landing and gave Paul Townend absolutely no chance. But it's funny, isn't it? You look back at the Thurles Novice Chase on the 5th of March, it's not a bad piece of form. You had Soldier in Milan finishing 4th and Fleur in the Park finishing 5th. Yeah. And they've gone on and won the Irish National and a Grade 1. But I'd be with Ed, to be honest. I thought this isn't form to trust going forward. An SP of 22-1 kind of shows it as well. As much as it was a good story, I thought it was a clever ride by Keane Quirk as well. Saved ground up the inside, and yes, that was slightly fortuitous because he avoided the melee on the outside with Predator's Gold falling, bringing down Western Fold. But yeah, I thought it was a ride full of confidence for a jockey who hasn't ridden in a huge amount of Grade 1s.
What do we make of 6 Mile Bridge?
He folded rather tamely.
Just, seemed inexplicably flat, really, I thought. But,
I don't know. I wasn't entirely convinced by the Sandown performance myself. No. I'm not sure, so I think there's a fair bit to prove for him. The Grade 2 Juvenile Hurdle on Monday, in as much as it was a good race to watch, it was almost a pointer to horses that weren't there. Obviously, there's Narciso Has, but also pointers to horses that are going to run at Aintree later on in the week. Proactif, Macho Man, Majolique, a 1-2-3 for Willie Mullins.
Yeah, I thought this was a really good performance. And in an interview afterwards with Gary O'Brien, Mark Walsh blamed the faster ground for Proactif's performance in the Triumph Hurdle. Just never really jumped or travelled that day and was quite disappointing, to be honest. Jumped, had a much better position in this race, beat Macho Man again. Yes, they obviously met earlier on at Fairy House as well, but I thought jumping won it, really. If you look at the jump indexes, Macho Man had 7.7, whereas Proactif was brilliant at 9.4, and Macho Man again, just jumping, let him down, pulled up at Cheltenham in the Triumph, having made a bad mistake at halfway, but I think he's a really talented horse going forward if they can then bring that together. It's going to be interesting to see which routes they go down with Proactif, with Macho Man and with Narciso Has, because they all look quite big juveniles that would jump fences in time, and whether Willie goes the softly route and bring them back, I suppose, after the turn of the year and campaign them as champion hurdle horses, or whether you kick on a bit earlier and go novice chasing and get that experience into them is going to be really interesting. Because if you look at the market, for example, Proactif and Narciso Has, they're both sort of 20s, 33s for the Arkle and the champion hurdle, but I think we've got a really good crop of juveniles this year. I'm quite excited about them. So yeah, I'm interested to see where they go for next year. It's not one of these, often we talk about the juveniles struggling the year after, but I think we've got a good crop this year.
Agree,
yeah. I mean, still, I just think, if anything, it just heightens Narciso Has's claims, who just, to me, feels the cut above, and instantly thought kind of Mashborough Part 2. Of all of them, I think he'd be the one most likely to go chasing next year.
It's just whether they'd do that after a setback. That was my only
thinking. I suppose it depends on the depth of the setback, doesn't it? But lots will come out in the washing. But we're going to see a lot of obviously top juveniles at Aintree as well, aren't we? So I agree with you. Just feels an above average bunch, and we've got one in the Arkle and one in the Champion Hurdle as kind of prominent contenders next year. You're not going to be shocked, are you?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. The juveniles look very smart, and really looking forward to seeing the race at Aintree later this week as well. Lots of other good racing going on over the last week, both on the flat and over jumps. I'll let you begin with some of the others that you'd like to mention.
Just getting my list up here in terms of I've covered Kiss Will and Jukebox Jury. Kawabunga. Runner-up to my old, I don't know what to call him, friend anymore, Slade Steele, the ultimate Cliff Steele. This should be a lovely chaser next season. Could easily envisage him in the novice handicap chase, the Jack Richards or something next year. Big physical stamp. When he came back in February, you wondered, did he need the run? Were the old fires there after injury? But clearly stripped a lot fitter for that. And I think he's definitely the horse to take out that going forward. He's on fire, literally. Was on fire. I mean, that was
hugely impressive.
Hugely impressive. No, where was the race before he won out? When he cantered home, wasn't it? I was going to say English track, I couldn't remember where, but on the bit. And I thought, nice performance. And then, wow. Again, I'd love to know what the plans are going further forward for that horse, because 2.5 clearly suits, but plenty of gears for 2. Yeah. But pedigree suggesting staying could suit. So I think all options on the table for that horse. But really smart performance.
He was hugely impressive. He's on fire. I think and the fact that Willie Mullins only added to the excitement of what you saw on the day by saying, "Oh, this could be quite useful."
Yeah, I'd say he'll go novice chasing next season, won't he? Looking at the size of him. But yeah,
back to.
Well,
I know. Just my brain's cogs are going on trip.
You don't. I mean, he'd have won at any trip.
Yeah.
In that race, wouldn't he? So I wouldn't have him down strictly as a 2.5 miler. But yeah, it would be interesting to see where he goes. But yeah, he's going to be full of potential. Gordon Elliott's been a bit quiet recently. I thought the training performance to get Cocktail Brute back to win that Grade 2 novice hurdle, I know he won by 9.5 lengths. Yeah. That's accentuated by the fact that Blake unseated at the last. But this is a horse who had a big reputation, bled from both nostrils. Like, it was a proper bleed when he pulled up behind Skylight Hustle in that Grade 1 over Christmas that Talk the Talk fell in.
Yeah.
And to get him back, kind of, well, it's not softly, because he was running in Grade 1s, but just gradually build him back in order to win this. I thought it was a really clever training performance from Gordon Elliott to get him back. I thought it was really good to see Energumene back as well. Like, all of the old enthusiasm at the age of 12, like, pulled Paul Tamlin's arms out for about 2 miles of the race and still went away. I think he might have his swan song at Punchestown, which will be great for him. I mean, it's amazing to think it's over 4 years since he won his first champion chase.
Willie Mullins did an interview before racing yesterday, or before he ran, and he said, well, if they go a good gallop in the race, it should suit Energumene, because you remember he won that race over 2.5 miles in heavy ground. And that I was thinking about, so I quickly checked when that race was, and it was 6 years ago. Wow, but incredible.
Tempest Fugit.
Willie Mullins, obviously, a lot was made of cheap pieces with Willie Mullins recently. He fitted them to Calix de Barriere, who led home a 1-2-4-5, Willie Mullins, in one of those handicap hurdles. So that's just something to keep an eye on, probably for Punchestown going forward, if he's having horses, particularly in kind of graded company handicaps that are fitted with first-time cheap pieces. I do think that's an angle these days. A couple of years ago it was hoods, wasn't it? And now it seems to be cheap pieces that is leaning for. So that's definitely an angle that I'm going to be looking forward to, looking at Punchestown. And then just a quick shout out to Brewing Up a Storm, who at the age of 13
what a run.
Ran on to finish fourth, albeit past beaten horses, but ran on to finish fourth, obviously behind Slade Steele and Carol Boonker in that race.
Yeah, he was terrific, the old boy. A couple of horses to mention from the flat. Al Kareem won a listed race at Musselburgh, the Goliath Cup. Not only was he, as usual, very brave in victory, but it was a welcome winner for Clifford Lee, who obviously suffered that serious injury. I was lucky enough to speak to him after he won. I hadn't quite realised the extent of how serious it was. I mean, I knew it was serious, but the fact that it was life-threatening, career-ending threatening, and yet he's back. You know, that was October. He's back riding. A credit to everybody involved in supporting him, and well done to the horse as well, because he looked beaten, as he has done in the past, but he battled on well. There's a very impressive 2-year-old winner, Adonius. But it brought up an interesting topic about barrier trials. You know, should be made. Obviously, he had a barrier trial. Not too many people knew about it. It wasn't made public before the race. Yet he's bolted up and won by 7 lengths. Now, I'm not saying that that's because he ran in a barrier trial solely. Clearly not. But surely these barrier trials ought to be a little bit more accessible, not a little bit, much more accessible, for anybody who's having a bet in the race, surely.
Yeah, I suppose it's this information that, well, I don't think anyone would be against revealing information, really.
No.
It's not a kind of cocktail secrecy, really, is if the horse has had a barrier trial, and I agree.
I mean, they show the race, they show barrier trials in other jurisdictions actually available for everybody to watch.
Yeah, and it's a bit different to sort of schooling bumpers. I remember back in the day, like Bob Ollinger won a schooling bumper with all of Henry's like Grade 1 horses before he won a bumper, and everyone went, "Oh my God, what's that?" So it's how far you then go with it. There was obviously talk around Kopek de Board, obviously beating Impere Pass in a schooling race, obviously over fences and things like that. So I can understand why people want more information, but are you then wanting to have specific weights published for working after racing? I don't know where it then becomes a bit of a murky area, I suppose.
I think if you are going to have a trial on a racecourse, I think there should be some element of responsibility to inform the public about what's happening there. I think if you're doing something in your own training ground privately, fair enough. Who knows what you're doing, how the weights and measures are going to be. But if you're going on a public facility, which a racecourse really is, I think you ought to be giving that information out.
So Nicky Henderson's Kempton pre-Cheltenham one, next year you'd want weights published for what they carry.
Ideally, I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but I want to know more about it.
Yeah.
I'd rather know more than not and just guess it.
I'm just playing devil's advocate, by the way.
I know, but who's the red cap eight back?
You remember there'd be days where they'd take horses to do a racecourse gallop, and they wouldn't tell you who else they're working with. Just it's changing, and it should change a little bit more. And one other horse I'm going to mention, which was Gethin, who won at Kempton on Monday. He was very impressive. He did a lot wrong. He looked a little bit big beforehand. It's palpable that Owen Burrows thinks he is a top-class horse, says he's a Group 1 horse. Where he goes next, he's mentioned the Gannet after that win in the Magnolia Stakes. I'm not sure that will be the ideal race for him right now, but he's going to end up in Group 1s at some point, so he's definitely a name to remember. OK, that has been this week's Racing Recap. Now, before we get into our entry preview, just to let you know that our sponsor, Bet365, have a best odds guaranteed offer. It's available on every single UK and Irish race from 8 a.m. on the day of the race. If you take a price and the SP is bigger, Bet365 will pay you at the bigger odds. Full T's and C's can be found on the website. And so, to the Grand National we go, and we'll start with a great race on Saturday and have a look at the market with Bet365. Former winner Iron Maximus, the 15-2 favourite, Grange Clare West. Paul Townend to decide between which one of those two he's going to ride, is second in the market at 10s along with Jaguar, Haiti Calor, Iroko 12s, Panic Attack 14s, Johnny Who 16s along with last year's winner Nick Rocket, Oscar's brother, and 20s bar those. Away you go. You're opening the batting on this one.
Yeah, I'm hoping in like Sibley or Crawley. Where are we going? We're going to fire in. Wait, do you want the 1, 2, 3 or just the one? Or
I tell you what. Why don't you
3, 2, 1?
Why don't you start with your 1, 2, 3 and we'll work back from that? Should we do that?
Okay, we'll go with my 1, 2, 3. Right. Okay, so in third, I am going with Gorgeous Tom.
Okay.
Henry de Bromhead. Second, I'm going for the mini boil over for Lucky Watson.
Okay.
With spring conditions in his favour. Number 1, I'm going for last year's fourth Iroko.
And why Iroko to win it?
I think battle hardened. I think he's clearly an improved horse from last year. The assessor has had a say on that. I'm not too concerned about the Cheltenham blowout, which everyone seems to be. Ran in the Ultima, mucus in the lungs, scoped badly afterwards. I think he's a smart jumper. He hit a little bit of a flat spot last year before staying on again. I just think he'll be a lot more streetwise this time round. Yeah. And I don't see why he should be 12, 14 to 1, really. Likes of Iron Maximus and Nick Rocket clearly had lovely preparations, but they are flying incredibly high in handicapping ranks. And I just still think Iroko, a bit like his quirky stablemate Jaguar, have probably got a few pounds up their sleeve. So, look, the Grand National, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm really strong on something because it is the Grand National, but I'd be very disappointed if Iroko wasn't in the top 5 or 6, whatever, jumping the last. He was placed in it last year, and I think he'll be bang there once again.
If he hadn't run at Cheltenham, which could conceivably have been a thing, and they've just gone straight...
It'd be half the price, wouldn't he?
He would be favourite, wouldn't he?
He'd be more or less unfair, yeah, exactly. So that's the kind of angle, and it's how much, what's the saliency of that run at Cheltenham in terms of the price and his performance. I'm just not all that bothered by it, to be honest with you. I just think it was a day out, didn't quite work, scoped badly after, and if anything, it saved him a real having to go to the well in a real hard race.
And a word about your other two. So Roko 12s, Gorgeous Tom 25s, and the most left field of your selections, Lucky Watson at 40s.
Is he that left field? I keep thinking he's a Grade 1 Brown Advisory horse who loves spring ground. This has been
according to the market, it's the most left field.
It is. I totally agree with that. Look, but since the Battle of Agincourt, this has been the plan, and he's a lovely jumper. I like horses who get up on the front end now.
Yes.
The days of creeping round and trying to Jamie Spencer it around Liverpool aren't quite there anymore.
I'd love to see that.
That would be wonderful to watch.
Derek Fox did it on One for Arthur.
He did it on One for Arthur. I just like horses who get up in the van. I think he'll be up there. He'll jump for fun. He's finicky in regards to underfoot conditions. I mean, he will handle winter ground, but it looks like the weather's coming in his favour. And for a Grade 1 winner, I think he could have a few pounds up his sleeve, where I do think this has been his target forever, whereas there are perhaps a few others are here by default or they've always got to run here, if that makes sense. So I'm going to take a chance on him at a big price each way.
All right. Excellent. That's your 3. Might come back to you on 1 or 2 others just to see what you think of them. Steve, should we get your 3?
Yeah, I'm going to go in an order that will make sense in a second. So my number 1 is Lecky Watson.
Oh, what? We didn't confer over this one. Really?
Well, this is now kind of a grade 2 handicap, isn't it? And I think after Lecky Watson won the Brown Advisory, Willie Mullins looked at him and went, "You're not going to win a Gold Cup. I'm going to target the Grand National." And he's just been given that prep. Tried in Grade 1 company. John Durkan, well beaten, trip too short. Savills, Irish Gold Cup, ground too heavy. Last time had, I think, a £12 penalty in the Bobby Joe, ground too heavy. I think this would have been a long-term target. If you go back to him as well, beat Slade Steele in a beginner's chase on yielding ground. I just think the spring ground is going to be a massive thing for Lecky Watson. Good jumper. Yeah, I think, I really like him for this race. So, yeah, around, 40 to 1?
40 to 1, yeah.
Yeah,
well, we've given him more than a £12 penalty now, then, haven't we?
Would be him. I like Jaguar for this week. I think he's going to become this podcast horse. I think we've mentioned him every single week on here. But I'll start with the 2 negatives. Stamina would be 1.
Yeah.
Has never won over further than 2.5 miles. That was a question mark going into the Ultima 3-mile one. I thought he stayed on well at the finish. Looked to stay, obviously second to Johnny Who in the Ultima. The second, obviously, is his jumping, but I actually think these national fences might really suit him. I think if he jumps really up and down over the first couple, it might just be game over. But if he brushes through one and thinks, I can brush through these, I think it could really suit him. He's got to jump 30 fences, which is the negative for him. But he never really makes mistakes. He just makes niggly little errors, which puts him on the back foot. But yeah, I think he's just going to brush through one of the ones early and then really get into a rhythm. I think it will really suit him. He's £5 well in at the weights as well, off the back of that Ultima run. So towards the top of the market, I really like Jaguar. And then at a massive price...
More massive than Lecky Watson?
Imperial Saint, I think, is around 66 to 1. I think
the entry specialist
out there. Yeah, now he needs a couple to come out. He's 36 on the list,
right,
but Spillane Tower's been declared for the bowl. Firefox could head to the Topham. So it's going to be touch or go whether he gets into the race. But like you say, Aintree form is superb. Albeit, obviously, on the Mildmay course. He's won 3 times there. Was really impressed with his win in the Peter Marsh at Haydock. I didn't have him down as a stayer before that run, but actually I was really impressed with that. If you look strictly at the form book, he disappointed in the Ultima, but he was really badly hampered at halfway, and Callum Pritchard, who rode him that day, just kind of allowed him to run on past beaten horses. I just think he's going to be overestimated here. If he sneaks into the race, the good thing around here is Bet365 and no run and no bet.
Yeah.
So yeah, if he doesn't get in, you get your money back anyway. But yeah, a massive price. I can see Imperial Saint outrunning those odds.
Excellent. No, I love your thinking. I mean, you've both clearly thought outside the box a little bit. I'm of the opinion that Jaguar's going to win. We know he's the podcast horse, the Racing Weekly podcast horse.
Drives me mad, this horse.
Well, you mentioned Party Politics as one of your great memories. Now, I remember Party Politics as a big gangly individual. Jaguar's a big gangly individual. And I take Steve's point. I think he will enjoy this course. The rhythm of this race, which is, look at his two of his best performances have come in massive fields, when he won at the Cheltenham Festival last year and when he ran second in the Ultima this year. He clearly doesn't have a problem with big fields and jumping in those sort of things. He does make niggly mistakes, but he's a bit gangly, and I think the Grand National rhythm of the race will really suit him. I might be entirely wrong, but there's a sense of it. You know, like you watch racing such a long time, you just sense that this race is going to suit. Also, if you look at all the horses in the race, you think to yourself, who's still got a little bit more in hand of where they are in the handicap? Well, it's not going to be Iron Maximus and Grange Clare West or whatever. It's most likely going to be Jaguar. So he's, I think, the outstanding selection for the race. Grange Clare West, I put him in simply because I thought Paul Tannen might ride him. I mean, I might be wrong, but also because if you look at that mistake at the last, I mean, you don't need race IQ to tell you that it brought him to almost a standstill, and yet he did brilliantly well to finish off. And of course, he's won the Bobby Joe. We know what a record that race has in providing the winner of the National. And Iroko, I'm with you. I think you just put a line through that race at Cheltenham. He's definitely a much better horse this season, barring that last run. So I thought those were the 3 obvious ones for me. I mentioned one other horse that I was considering to put in here, and it's one of Steve's old friends. It's Monty Star.
I think it's really sweet.
he was very close to making the 3. Probably for connections, they're happy that he doesn't make my 3. But he was close because I think this will suit him this year, and he'll stay on strongly. So those were the horses. And I was going to say at the end of this discussion to ask about left field, but you've both put up Lecky Watson. You've also put up Imperial Saint. And my left this field was Monty Starr at 20s. So, I mean, is there anything else that you think might have, or are we thinking?
No, well, I've got 2 of your in my top 6. I've got 2 of yours in my 5 and 6. Nick Rocket's my 6. So, so I'm pretty much there. But, yeah, Gorgeous Tom's the only other one I put in his 3rd, who very closely related to Kappa Bleu. Of course, ran well in this many moons ago. Yeah. It's going into unknown territory stamina-wise, like many of them are, but spring ground, proper test of stamina. I think every Bromhead's probably got quite a strong hand in this, funny enough. Yeah. Probably stronger than the market would lead you to believe. And he's run well in competitive handicaps. He stayed on really well at Newbury after a bit of an error. I think it was 3 or 4 out and kind of got caught on the back foot and then had to kind of go again and ran on into 4th at Newbury earlier in the season. And I don't think he'd be found wanting for stamina, put it that way.
Okay.
Just on your Grange, Clare West and Iroko, you backing them each way? Because I think they're rock solid. Will kind of be there, jump in the last. Jaguar, I'm still in 2 minds. I've not backed him yet, and I'm in 2 minds whether to back him just win only. Because I do think there is going to be, he's either going to take to it or he's not. But then you look back at his record, and he's really consistent and always finishes in the frame. Well, so I don't really know what to do with it.
There's a part of me that also thinks with Jaguar, he might be the most likely winner for me, but I can see him jumping the last and maybe not winning. If you know what I mean, like throwing it away. Maybe come in there actually still travelling, or at least in with a chance, come into the elbow, rolling around from left to right and not quite getting it done, and something just grinding away out in front of him, just seeing him off.
I think another positive for that as well, that Mark Walsh has ridden him as well. Obviously, John Joe Junior will have had the choice kind of between Iroko and Jaguar, I think, at the Cheltenham Festival in the Ultima. And that's obviously a point as well, is that he'll now know him better from the Ultima.
Are we dismissing Johnny Who completely? Because he won the Ultima. The John Joe Neal team are in much better form, obviously, over the last few weeks. And that was his first run after a wind-up. You know what they say? Second run after wind-up, all that. Yeah,
it was first run after a wind-up, and it was first-time cheat pieces as well. It's just whether both of those work for a second time. Yeah,
I'd agree with a lot of that. I mean, officially £6 well in.
Yeah.
Based on a hunch more than anything quantifiable, getting a feeling Cheltenham was his day. Yeah. Whereas I would fancy Iroko and Jaguar to turn the form round with him come Aintree. So, but looking for. After saying I wasn't all that excited about the rest, I'm absolutely over for it now. No, looking forward to this one.
Okay, I'm just going to recap the 1, 2, 3 for the Racing Weekly team for this year's Grand National. Ed is going for Iroko to win. Lecky Watson to finish 2nd, Gorgeous Tom to finish 3rd. Now, I say finish 2nd and 3rd and all that. Obviously, it's Grand National. Just getting those 3 in the top 3 would be brilliant. And Steve is going for Lecky Watson to win. And bear in mind, Lecky Watson's 40-1 as we currently record this programme. Both of them have selected Lecky Watson to finish in the top 3. Jaguar to finish 2nd. Imperial Saint to finish 3rd. And Imperial Saint is 66s. Is that right? Is that what we
think so?
Okay. Yeah, 66 is Bet365. And I've gone for Jaguar to win. Can't desert him on his biggest day. Grange, Clare West to finish 2nd and Iroko 3rd. That's my 1, 2, 3. And I very nearly put Monty Starr in there, but probably for his own good that he didn't make it. So that's our 1, 2, 3s for this year's Grand National. And despite what some people may say, it remains a magical, exciting race for different reasons now than it did in the past. Let's move on and talk about Thursday's racing at Aintree. And of course, the 3 days supporting races to the Grand National, some wonderful contests. I'm going to have to rely on Steve here for some of the declarations, because he's been keeping an eye on this whilst we've been recording the show. So the start with the Boodles Anniversary Juvenile Hurdle. Do we have Maestro Conti, etc.?
Yeah, so betting is now back up. Only 45 minutes, so well done, Bet365 traders. Selma Davari 5-2, Maestro Conti 11-4, Winston Junior 4-1, Manila Study 9-2. So we get a lot from the Triumph Hurdle, obviously facing off against each other.
Okay, is Winston Junior declared to say?
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Lovely. Would you like to start on this race, Ed?
No Morge too.
Yes. Yeah. She's there. Yeah. She's there as well. I just didn't want to go through the whole
just
field.
in terms of her price.
Yeah, she's 6-1.
Well, I think
and
that's,
then it's 33s.
I think that's cracking. Yeah. I've said to you earlier, I take the opinion that Narciso has juvenile form, I believe, is slightly above the rest. Obviously, got the better of that individual. Then the form was turned around last time out, but she's swerved Cheltenham for this. Yep. She's fresh. I think there's a lot of ticks in the boxes here around the 6-1 marker. Yeah. Oh, it can be muddling affairs, can't they, juveniles? Yeah. And again, to use that old phrase, you don't know how much Cheltenham took out of them, but you don't. The amount of times you see horses just run inexplicably flat when it comes to this, especially young horses who've been on the go since October, November. But I suppose she's got to prove it on a quicker surface, but she did absolutely hack up on yielding ground at Down Royal earlier in the back end of last year. So yeah, I think she's overpriced personally.
Okay, she's 6-1 with Bet365, Selma de Vary 5-2, 11 for Maestro Conti. I like Winston Jr., a horse I really admire. I don't think things have worked out in his favour. He's given far too much to do at Cheltenham.
Came up the hill well, yeah.
But he finished off strongly.
Yeah.
I hope that he gets a clean run at this. And I just want to find out how good he is. I know AP McCoy thinks he is very good. So hopefully he'll get a chance. No excuses in this anniversary juvenile hurdle. You, Steve?
Yeah, Ed touched on Narciso Haas form. I'll be with Selma de Vary in this. Willie Mullins has won this race 3 times in the last 9, interestingly, all with fillies. Apples Jade, Zenta and Mercia last year. Also had Cargies finish second behind Sergino. I thought she was the eye-catcher of the Triumph. Harry Skelton came across and kind of hampered her on Maestro Conti getting to that rail. She previously caught the eye behind Narciso Haas.
Got to settle though, hasn't she?
She has, yeah. But it's interesting the entry. I like front runners on over fences, but I quite like held up horses over hurdles there. They can make ground on that flat track when they come round that bend. So yeah, I think she can
flat track probably suits Selma de Vary better.
I think so. Yeah. I think she'll settle out the back and she can come through. So yeah, I thought she would prove hard to beat and reverse that form.
All right. The Manifesto Novices Chase, also on the Thursday. 5 declared Lulamba, the 7-4 on favourite. Cocktail Divan, 7-2. Jax Jr., 8-1. Mamba number 5, 8-1. And Blue King Daru, 33s. Steve?
Yeah, I like Cocktail Divan. Obviously, put him up for the Ryanair on our Cheltenham review show. So I have to kind of fancy him in novice company here, to be honest. Obviously, Lulamba is going to be the one that's probably going to be hard to beat. I think both will improve for this trip. Obviously, Lulamba going up in trip, Cocktail Divan coming down in trip. Lulamba, I thought, was right in with a chance in the Arkle. Nico asked him for a big one at the second last to hold his position. Put down, and then kind of stayed on after that. I thought Cocktail Divan was the most likely winner of the Brown Advisory, turning for home. Yes. 3 mile one, just didn't get up the hill, lost a shoe, was a bit sore afterwards. I suppose that would be the only negative coming here straight after that Cheltenham run is it wasn't that he just didn't stay. There was a couple of other issues as well, which I put forward as a positive for his Ryanair prospects, but it's whether 30 days afterwards, whether it's going to be a negative coming to this race. You also need to remember that he finished only 4th in the Mersey at the meeting last year, but I just think he's improved since then. But yeah, I'd prefer to back him at the prices than I would take odds on around Lulamba.
Fair enough. What about you, Ed?
I'm just worried about the post-Cheltenham exploits for Cocktail Divan. Vicky Henderson wasn't exactly bold and confident interviewed at Hereford yesterday about Lulamba. He was like, tight track, rattling quick ground, end of a season. Yeah. Well, we've got to give it a go. Mambo number 5, I think it could be a blessing in disguise. The fact, didn't he have a stone bruise on the morning of the Arc or whatever? I think flat track 2.5 will probably suit him a lot better. He's got winning form at this venue. Coming here fresh against horses, as I say, might have had to really go into the trenches at Prestbury Park. 8-1. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he upset the apple cart here.
I ran a few trends, one of those based on that. 4 of the last 5 winners missed the Cheltenham Festival and came here fresh. So that's another angle for you.
Cocktail Divan Ryanair Chase. Let's do next year's festival preview. I'm absolutely all in.
Well, I'm glad we're all taking on Lulamba. I mean, so you've got a Cocktail Divan, Mamba number 5. Jax Jr. for me is the best jumper in the race, I think, at this trip. I'm pretty certain that after he'd won at Sandown, Connections, ideally, Lucy Wadham was suggesting straight to Aintree.
Aintree, yeah.
But I think the owners wanted to go to Cheltenham. He was actually ridden like I'm going to hunt him around the back, try and see where he finishes. And he finished 4th. He was beaten comfortably in the end. But I don't think he jumped quite as well as he can do. He's a better jumper than he was showed at Cheltenham.
I actually very briefly spoke to Tom Cannon after the race, and he said it's taken off his feet over 2 miles against those top championship horses, and he said 2.5 and just walked off.
So hopefully at Aintree he'll be able to show a bit more of what he can do. So he'll be my selection. Okay, next we'll talk about the bowl and the favourite in, again, 5 declared for this. Jango Baie, unsurprisingly, the 4 to 5 favourite. Impera Pass 5 to 1. Spillans Tower 5 to 1. Protectorat 13 to 2, and Pic D'Orhy 12 to 1. Jango Baie, best horse in the race. But will he win?
Probably, but this is. I'm actually going to sit this one out from a betting perspective.
Because?
I think the ground's going to be too quick, plus Father Time for Protectorat. I think Father Time's probably got the Pic D'Orhy. Parapass has arrived 4 weeks after pulling up.
Yeah.
Jango Baie had a very hard race in the Gold Cup. I mean, if I've forgotten one of the other...
Spillans Tower.
Spillans Tower. I don't know whether he needs heavy, good to firm, whether he's going to run in the Galway Plate or the E-Ball. So... a race I'm happy to sit out, to be honest with you.
The one thing I'll say about Jango Baie is that he came into the novice race last year off the back of 3 runs, and he ran quite well there. He stuck on quite nicely. I thought he should have won. And he's coming in here again off 3 runs. He won at Ascot, ran well at Kempton, ran well in the Gold Cup. So although they're harder races, because they're championship races, I still think he'll be too good for them.
Should be, yeah. There's just doubts around all of them, and Ed's gone through that. You've got 2 11-year-olds in Protectorat and Pic D'Orhy who will run their races, but they shouldn't really be good enough to win this. You'd really fancy Impera Pass if he hadn't ran in the Ryanair. And I suppose the good thing about that is that he ran no race and didn't just finish sort of 4th, but it's hardly a positive coming here. Spillans Tower, is he going to run? He was a non-runner last year on the ground. I don't really know what they're doing with that horse. Jango Baie should win this, but you have seen horses beaten in this previously. I remember Denman coming here of having, I think, finished placed in a Gold Cup.
Corto Star got beaten this by Arvik.
But then you look at the trends, 26 of the previous 41 winners had raced in the Gold Cup, 8 of the previous 14 had ran in the King George. So he fits both of those, but I wouldn't be in a rush to take odds on.
Okay.
Yeah, agree,
The Aintree Hurdle, perhaps. This is a bit more exciting. The New Lion, back up to 2.5 miles, 7 to 4 favourite. Brighter Days Ahead, 2 to 1. El Fabiolo, 5 to 1. Alexi up in trip, 8 to 1. Golden Ace, the former champion hurdle winner, 14s, along with Potter's Charm, and Lucky Place, the outsider, at 33s. Well, this is what a lot of people have been saying. The New Lion should be racing over distance-wise.
Yeah, this is a really interesting rematch, isn't it, between the New Lion and Brighter Days Ahead. Both will be suited by this 2.5 mile trip. Brighter Days Ahead won the Mersey Novices Hurdle here 2 years ago in impressive style. I think 7.5 lengths she won that day. The New Lion, I thought, was given a safety first ride in the Champion Hurdle, kept wide. Obviously, I do think Harry Skelton was slightly worried about his jumping. I think this track will suit. I think the ground will suit him. I think the distance will suit him. I actually don't think the step up in trip will suit Alexi as well as it will the other 2. I had him down as a speed horse as opposed to a horse that would want 2.5 miles, to be honest. I thought it was the right trip for Potter's Charm, but he probably has 6 or 7 pounds to find with these. So it's really, for me, it was a coin toss between the New Lion and Brighter Days Ahead, to be honest. But just with that performance in that novice race in the back of my head for Brighter Days Ahead, I think I'm just going to lean towards her.
Okay, Brighter Days Ahead for Steve, 2 to 1. What about you, Ed?
I'm fence sitting a lot here. New Lion next year's Stayers Hurdle. That's the second leg of my cocktail divan kind of plan. Yeah, okay. I think he's going to have to go up in trip. Are we dismissing El Fabiolo out of hand here? Like a horse with a lot of back class, obviously an Arkle winner. He's got the fresh angle. He went on the bit, last time out, albeit in a bog. A muddling race. If you really push me, I'll be with Brighter Days Ahead. Not with any real conviction, to be honest with you. But I just don't know what to make. Alexi, I get the feeling this is just an owner's day out, because I swear I saw Joe Tizard about a week ago saying we think he's probably done for the season now, and couldn't see him getting 2.5 miles. I'm not sure the rest are good enough. So it does kind of come back to the top 3. Al Fabiolo is the ultimate joker in the pack here, because how much of that ability is still there? And if there's any of it still there, then we say the rating suggests it's not a million miles away. So another muddling race, maybe one more to watch than get heavily involved in.
But I thought this is one of the races, where you go through if this didn't happen, like I was saying about Oroka, if he didn't run in that race.
If is the most dangerous word in racing.
It's an awful thing to do. I know it's an awful thing. But I'm going, if New Lion was campaigned in the way he was campaigned through his novice hurdle career, and there were a series of races for him over 2.5 miles, do you think...
I'll be, I mean, 4 to 6.
Because his novice hurdle career, 2.5 miles, so impressive, all the way through to Cheltenham. And he's a different class. I think he's going to win, and I think he'll win well. And I'm with you. I think he should be going for the Stayers Hurdle next year.
I can't see where else he will go in.
Well,
we'll see.
He's not going to go chasing, is he?
No.
So, well, I mean, I don't know. Immediately after Carol de Matan finished in the... I was saying, drop back in trip, and then Dan Skelton went, we're going to go for the Arkle. That was his... So, I don't know.
Great game.
It's a great game. OK, let's go to Friday, and the Mildmay Novices Chase is the first step for us. Salva is the 11-4 favourite. Miami Magic 3-1, Regent Stroll 7-2, Wendigo 9-2, Gold Dancer 5s, and 10s bar those. Ed, what do you fancy here?
Very confusing. I don't particularly fancy Wendigo. Flat track, quick ground entry. Similar reasons. Don't particularly fancy Salva. For all I thought the horse ran an absolute belter on ground that was probably far too quick from it, Cheltenham, and nearly got absolutely kiboshed in the race, didn't he? Nearly taken out of it. But I wonder, will things just be happening a bit quickly for Salva? I thought Miami Magic might be slightly overlooked in the market here, if taking his chance. Obviously, he beat Regent Stroll earlier in the season and stepped up on a flat track at Newbury to just shy of 3 miles last time out and came home in isolation. So I'm against Wendigo and Salva without massively being for something else. But at the prices, price dictates, Miami Magic could probably be the way I'd be leaning.
All right, Miami Magic.
Sorry, just final point on that, Rishi, sorry to interrupt. Wendigo's got next season's Newbury Hennessy written all over him. And to be honest with you, he's off 149. If he's tailed off here and gets dropped to 146...
Not the worst thing.
I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. No.
OK, what do you like here, Steve?
So I kind of agree with Ed on who I don't like. I had Salva down as a kind of soft ground horse, and I'm of the opinion that horses will go once on that sort of ground that they find too fast, and backing up quite quickly on that ground again would be a worry for him. I was going to make a case for Miami Magic either in this or in the other race at bigger prices, but 3-1 now kind of puts me off, really. I mean, he was sent off
7-1 only 48 hours ago.
He was sent a 5-2 favourite here, completely missed the start. Brian Hughes lost an iron, was keen, jumped terribly. Like, you completely write that off. But yeah, I had him down as a much bigger price than sort of the 3-1 that's available here. I'd probably take a chance of Jordan's Cross, to be honest. I had him down as one of my best bets of the festival in Jack Richards, and he was one of those horses that was inconvenienced by the false start. Yes, he's won over 2.5 miles, but he needs to be up with the pace over 2.5 miles. I think the step up in trip will suit him. Last two winners of this, Caldwell Potter and I Know the Way You're Thinking, stepped out of handicap company to come here. I don't think there's a huge amount between those top end handicappers and the graded novice chasers this season. And yeah, I thought Jordan's Cross would probably, at the prices, it would be the way that I'd be going here.
I'm excited to see Regent Stroll over this trip. I think this is what he's always wanted. Remember that bumper win where he looked beaten and then he stayed on really well? Always suggested to me that he was a stayer. I think he sort of fooled them by the way he races so keenly.
Bit keen,
but you watch the Cheltenham run again. As soon as they cross the line in the Cheltenham, you're just thinking he needs further.
Harry Cobden alluded to it and was said that the Ultima probably would have been the race for him in terms of didn't have the gears, did he?
No, and having prepared to say all that last night when I was going through, I then opened the Racing Post up on my iPad last night, and Paul Nicholls has gone, we've always said he wants 3 miles in the Racing Post, so now it sounds like I'm just repeating what Paul Nicholls says, which I am, but I did think that at the time. So.
And he ran well at the meeting
last year. Yeah.
If he was to have this, if he was to run well in this, the King George would be the logical race for him next season as well, wouldn't it? For Paul Nicholls?
Hopefully he'll get Caldwell Potter back at some point as well, so he needs a few horses to come through. Right, the top novices hurdle. This looks like, assuming that they all declare, and Sober Glory is in there, 4-5 favourite, Ballyfad 5-1, Baron Noir 5-1, Sinatra 7s, 14s bar those. Looks a great opportunity for Sober Glory, who wasn't far off winning the Supreme.
Yeah, trends fit his way as well. 16 of the last 26 winners ran in the Supreme. Amazingly, Supreme runners-up are 7 from 8 in the last 26 renewals. So yeah, it is a race that does suit horses that have finished runner-up in the Supreme. I can see why he is a short price. He was unlucky not to win the Supreme, in my opinion. Travelled beautifully, jumped really well until the last. And I was just more impressed by his attitude to nearly get back up at the finish in this race. So yeah, I can completely understand why Sober's odds on for this. I said earlier that I rate the juvenile form this year. I'd be interested to see if Faye Bramley declares Lord Byron for this. Hasn't declared him for the juvenile hurdle, has gone with Minson Jr. there, which means that Lord Byron can run here. Has also got the option, as you tell me, of the 2.5 mile. They get £8 from their elders here. 4-year-olds only won from 26 in this race previously. But like I said, I do think that we've got a good crop of juveniles this year. Outran odds of 80-1 to finish 5th in the Triumph. Yeah. You've got the likes of Selma Davari, Maestro Conti obviously testing that form the day earlier. And yeah, if he's then declared, I could probably have him as an each-way play, but I wouldn't put anyone off back in the favourite odds on. I've said earlier on in the show I wouldn't back Lulamba at odds on, I wouldn't back Jango Baie at odds on. He's one that I probably would.
Yeah, comparatively, the pool of horses against him looks a lot weaker, doesn't it? But more the wider point, Johnson White saying if he absolutely annihilates them, they will think of the champion hurdle route next season. As opposed to the Arkle route, which seems to be the natural way of thinking. So I still think they want to see where they are with Sober Glory. Yeah, I think the most likely winner by far. There is an argument, could be shorter in the market. Yeah. If there was something at a bonkers price to hit the frame, La Conquière, the mare for Jamie Snowden, Gavin Sheehan said she absolutely hated the undulations at Cheltenham last time out. Her best form is on a flat track as well. That would probably concur. She's got a lot of natural speed. So I could see her kind of being hunting around. I think Johnny Burke would be riding this time. And if she kind of picks off pieces on good ground, flat track, I could see her nicking third at whatever price she is. But yeah, Sober Glory, yeah, very exciting horse for this race and further forward.
Okay, let's have a quick look at where La Conquière features in that. She is 33-1 with Bet365. Okay, I'm going to add to what Steve's saying about Lord Byron. I do think that whichever race he runs in, I'm going to be keen on him. He finished off really well. He gave them quite a bit of ground to make up, or had a bit of ground to make up on the principles, but stuck on really well at Cheltenham in the Triumph. I half think he'd be better over further at Aintree, but we'll see where he goes. The Melling Chase, also on Friday. John Bond's a 7-4 favourite. Hartwood 9-4. Grey Dawning 11-4. Gidley Park 14s. Lerdersid JPR 1 big prices. What do you like here?
I don't. I do not. I want to take John Bon on again here. I mean, he's really had a hard spring, hasn't he? But what a horse! I mean, he just won't lie down. He keeps coming back. He loves this place.
Yep.
He's the right favourite. Again, gut feeling. I mean, he's not ancient. He's 10. But I just wonder if the cumulative effect of hard campaign and his age might slightly catch him out. Gidley Park was the joker in the Pat Fraser liked to use at a big price. I think this is his kind of race, taking on the horses who've had a very hard Cheltenham. 83 days off. Harry Fry in the spring, flat track, double figures. I could see him running well at a double figure price, but a real muddling affair, to be honest. It does sound like Loda Sud might be having a crack at this trip. I did not see him as a 2.5 miler at all. I mean, I know we spoke about him back in October when I was here, and I thought he was disappointed in the Champ Chase. To be honest with you, the race opened up for him, didn't it? With Majbridge jumping, falling apart, tanked into it, and then didn't find a lot when the button was pushed. I'm not sure an extra half a mile is going to really help him.
I agree.
Personally.
I don't see the trip being. No. I do think he got suckered into being too close to the pace in the Champion Chase, but I can't see it. Also, the whole thing about Loda Sud is to come fresh off a break.
Yeah.
For me.
Not for me.
They also haven't declared Grey Dawning for the bowl, so whether he's going to be their representative here, it's quite hard to know. Obviously, the day before declarations come in.
What do you like? Anything? I mean, I'm with Ed here. There's nothing that really appeals.
I could make a case for Gidley Park. I was wrong about him all the time. I've gone, you need to go back to 2 miles with him. You need to go back to 2 miles with him. He pulled up last time, and you always assume, it's that heart issue that's come back, but it wasn't. It was just his jumping. He was taken off his feet in the Clarence House last time. But in fairness, Ilate Tomp was taken off his feet as well. He managed to come back from a crashing fall in order to win the Champion Chase. If you look back, he finished second in the Manifesto last year, behind Impere Pass, in front of Jango Baie. Ran well behind Jango Baie on his reappearance as well. So back up to a trip that
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
wrong about that.
Yeah,
Might
yeah.
actually be his correct trip on a flat track. Might well suit him. I thought at big price. I thought JPR1 could run well.
Yeah.
I'm sure Brendan Powell got very excited at the bottom of the hill in the Ryanair chase. I just thought the return back to a flatter track would suit him. He's 33-1.
Yeah.
And for a horse, for a race where we've raised question marks around a few of them, he at least comes in here off what you probably argue is near career best performance.
Yeah, I'd have a bit on him each way because I expect him to be ridden as aggressively as he was. And he had them all at it. Brendan Powell did say it was one of the biggest thrills he's ever had riding at the Cheltenham Festival, the way he jumped and travelled. And I agree with you. I think a flatter track will help him. So, yeah, I can see that. The Sefton Novices Hurdle also on Friday. Johnny's Jury looking to follow up his win at Cheltenham, the 15-8 favourite. Mondui Boy, 7-2. No drama this end, 6-1. There's now a doubt about the ground. Paul Nicholson said he wanted to see some rain. I'm not sure we're going to get any. Talk to the Man, 13-2. Dalston Lads, 7. Zeus Power, 8. And then double figures bar those. Johnny's Jury to follow up from the Cheltenham win?
Not sure. I'm not sure this is necessarily his... I'm not as comfortable with him at Aintree as I was at Cheltenham, personally. Look, it was a lovely... I think Jamie Stone was a bit surprised more than anything, wasn't he? I mean, they were talking about running him over 2.5. He'd only been running it 2 miles not all that long ago. I thought Mondui Boy... I mean, this is quite a spicy race, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be honest with you. Like, I think Mondui Boy... Did he really get up the hill? I'm not sure whether maybe I'm being a bit facetious there. I thought this track might suit him a lot better than Cheltenham. The other one, if he does take his chance, I thought Cryptic Jim absolutely tanked through the Albert Bartlett. Whether it was a blend of just a bit inexperienced, didn't quite stay, etc. Brendan Powell says he stayed, but there's kind of staying and enhancing your credentials by staying, isn't there? And I think perhaps 2.5 might be his trip, but an easy 3 on good ground could be more Cryptic Jim's kind of vibe. So yeah, I'm against the market leader at the prices. I think there's enough in here on the back of that hard Albert Bartlett run. Cryptic Jim at a big price, I could see him really travelling well through this.
I like him as well. He's 16-1. Steve?
I thought the horse to take out the Albert Bartlett was Mondui Boy. Because if you look back at it, horses that were ridden from the rear came through and battled it out at the finish, and he was the only horse that was up
in the van,
in the van that managed to stay there. Obviously, Dr. Steinberg kind of ruined the race, was keen in front, went a strong pace, and all of the horses came from the rear that day, apart from Mondui Boy, who stuck on, I think, into 4th, beaten just over 5 lengths. So I can see his case. I was impressed with Dalston Lad. Looks really progressive. His win at Haydock in the Prestige Novices Hurdle was good. Won his last 3. Again, this is a race that really you need to look away from Cheltenham form. 15 of the last 25 winners skipped the Cheltenham Festival. So a grueler in the Albert Bartlett, and it was a real grueler in the Albert Bartlett. That might just leave its mark on a few of these. So Dalston Lad would probably be number 1 for me.
All right. Saturday, we also have the McGull Novices Chase. Salvatore Mundi, 11-8 favourite. Carlo Conti, 4-1. Mighty Bandit, 9-2. 6s bar those. I can't have Salvatore Mundi at 11-8. I mean, I don't know how he's in it. He was 1-7 to win his most recent run, and the other 2 runs over fences so far this season haven't been exactly 11-8 in a race like this, no? No,
you're backing him based on the form of his novice hurdle win over Romeo Coolio by 7 lengths last year, aren't you, really? Because at Thurles, he did exactly what he should have done at the price. So, no, I'd be looking to take him on. Regular viewers will know that I have a soft spot for Stencil.
Yes.
Was always going to be suited by going novice chasing. It's just whether he can settle. I thought he was given educational runs at the start of this season. It slightly surprised me that they went for the Jack Richards over 2.5, and shock horror, he was too keen over 2.5 miles. I thought this drop down in trip, flatter track will suit him. Yeah, I don't know what price Stencil is in there.
12-1.
Yeah,
Bet 365. Yeah.
I'd prefer to back him than I would Salvatore Mundi at that price.
Yeah, my view would be I'm against Salvatore Mundi for all he's got Aintree form and the reasons Steve alluded to. I'll be with the mare here at the prices. Carla Conti, if she runs, I mean, obviously, if you take the Carghese form literally, she's right in the mix. The 2.5 mile experiment, you could argue, perhaps didn't quite work to maybe in Grade 1 company at Sandown last time out, stiff finish, winter ground. Yeah, I could see her sitting just off the pace here and pouncing. I mean, Salvador Mundy, box of frogs, isn't he? Bless him. And who knows what's going to turn up. But again, more of a favourite against rather than compelling cases of the others.
Yeah, I'll be the same, taking on Salvatore Mundy. No questions asked, I think, will run well. He hasn't got that much to find on the ratings. The Mersey Novices Hurdle also on Saturday. Bossman Jack, 3-1 favourite. Zeus Power, who was ahead of him at Cheltenham, 4-1. Ballyfad, 5-1. Montemares, Scorpio Rising, 7. Soldier Reeves, also ahead of Bossman Jack, 8-1 from the festival. Bossman Jack made a bad mistake at the last. If it wasn't for that, he'd have probably finished ahead of those rivals who reopposed today.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly plausible. He was the real, wasn't he? The eye catcher looming into it. Again, priced accordingly. This time round, again, a race I'm not. Again, it's just so hard to find cast iron angles in here. It's generally speaking the handicaps where I tend to delve more into. But look, Bossman Jack, as you say, comes on the back of a hard charter run, did make that error, but looked a horse full of real gears. And yeah, if anything, maybe this track will suit better than the undulations of Cheltenham.
Yeah, I like him. What about you, Steve?
Gordon Elliott's won the last 4 renewals of this race. Honesty Policy, Brighter Days Ahead, Irish Point and 3 Stripe Life. Has 1 entered, and that's Ballyfad. Obviously does have the option of the 2-mile race as well. I really like this horse. Won a point-to-point, won 2 bumpers at the start of this season, and they went, nope, we're going novice hurdling. Beat Leader Dallier by 9 lengths, I think, in a maiden hurdle at Christmas. Finished a short ahead behind Talk the Talk in the Grade 1 at the Dublin Racing Festival. King Rasco Gray was 3rd that day, who went on to win the Turners. Can be excused that run in the Turners himself. He was kicked at the start, still only beaten 7 lengths at the finish. And yeah, if Ballyfab was to run here, I thought it'd be the ideal candidate for this.
Okay, one more race that we are definitely going to preview, and then any other mentions. And that's the Liverpool Hurdle, for which Woodoo, 7-4 to continue her winning run. Honesty Policy, 92, strong leader, 6-1. Hidden Valley Lake, home by the Lee, 7s, 8s, bar those. She wins again for you?
Yeah, I really like her. Really, really like her. And by all accounts, she is going to run here, which is going to be good to see her over 3 miles. There was always around her, is she going to run in the mares? Will she drop to the champion hurdle? Will she just... I mean, she's a 2.5 mile / 3 mile horse for me. All she does is stay. She never does too much in front. That's why she managed to still progress through those handicaps and not get so much of a rise in the weight. She's now won 10 of 11 starts, never wins by far, beat Jade DeGrugy by a length, but I thought that was more cosy than what it was. She's been the only horse of Gordon Elliott's to win at the Cheltenham Festival for the last 2 years. Only defeat has come behind Lossiemouth at the track last year, so obviously we know that she goes well. I thought the biggest danger might be Jinko Blue if he was to run here. I was really impressed with him in the BetMGM Cup. Yeah. Just jumped so much better, but yeah, still has kind of £5 I think to find on ratings with her, with the mare's allowance, and yeah, Woodoo for me, I thought would be shorter than this, to be honest.
Okay. Woodoo wins?
I agree with a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, is Honesty Policy going to run? Are they going to try them both? Because obviously Honesty Policy won here last year. I was a little bit underwhelmed by his run the stairs hurdle. Yeah. Mike Walsh alluded to perhaps the horse a little bit wet behind the ears still, because he's only had a handful of runs in his life, went into the stairs and didn't quite work. Turned to a flatter track will suit. Fascinating going further forward, isn't it? With the Wadhoo, they're trying her over the 3. That opens up next year's stairs hurdle division if she's emphatic here, doesn't it? So, the right favourite Wadhoo, and yeah, just an absolute win machine. Yeah, she is. But I do like strong leader for the race, though. He was second in it last year. He won it the year before. He was second in the pocket the year before in that Grade 1. And he won in December of 22, 23, I can't remember off the top of my head. So his record at Aintree is excellent, and obviously this has been the plan. So I thought 6-1, I thought he was the biggest danger to Woodhoo. He was my nap on this show last year, so yeah. Well, he might be mine. I don't know. Okay, floor open. Anything else you want to mention for Aintree? Yeah, we're saving nap to the end. Yep. Save nap to the end. Other than that, then just 2 very quickly. The cat's out the bag, but Sombrie in Red Brum. 2 emphatic wins off 130. Was up to 144. Trainers grumble about handicappers. Paul Nicholls is not grumbling about the £11 he's got back over the last 5 months off this individual. 133. I don't think it mattered. The problem is 130 or whatever now. The price has gone. There's one I'm really umming and ahhing about here at around 16s, and that is in the Topham, and that is Ile Francais going to run. Now, this is just the type of quirky test that might really suit him. You know, you're not going back 3 centuries ago for a good form. Yeah. Only just over a year ago, he's leading the King George field, jumping the last. He's clearly had his issues, but I could just see the Topham chase. He gets out in front, it could just set him alight. Yeah. And I could see him having lots of horses in all sorts of trouble. Whether off 160, it's too much in terms of a handicapping assessment, but he could be a horse who really has them all in trouble coming to 2 out, and they still are in trouble. Whether he goes through the effort or not, who knows? But I'm tempted at the prices for a horse who is a genuine Grade 1 performer on his peak form.
It'll be exciting to watch.
Exactly, yeah. Sure. I'll be excited either way.
Yeah. Steve, anything else you want to mention?
Yeah, he's going to be one of those horses that they clip up the jumps of the fences when he's like really exuberant. Piece them all together. 4 quickly, I know we're against time. Unexpected Party in the Fox Hunters. Connections were right to resist the temptation of going to Cheltenham. This 2 mile 5 trip will definitely suit him better than what it would have done at Cheltenham's. 2 from 2 in Hunters Chases, 2 from 2 under Heidi Palin, who will ride here. And yeah, both of those wins have been over this trip. I just think the fresh angle against Barton Snow, and it's on the line, might well mean that he can win this. He's 7-2. Sombrie, I completely see. A similar case can be made for Cruise Control in the 230 on Saturday. Won this race in 2024 off a mark of 136, won it last year by 5 lengths off a mark of 139, and has dropped down to a mark of 140 this year. He's 8-1, so that's, if you like that kind of angle of being targeted back at the race, Sombrie's around 3-1, and Cruise Control is around 8-1 and has a very similar sort of profile. In the 145, the 2.5 mile handicap hurdle on Friday, I like Indiva Blue for Ollie Murphy. Was well fancied for the BetMGM Cup, ruled out by a small setback. His form has obviously been boosted. He was second behind Tutti Quanti at Newbury in the Jerry Field, and he went on to win, obviously, at the same track in February in the valuable handicap. Indiva Blue came to Aintree, won over the course and distance by 5.5 lengths that day. Runs here off £9 higher, but fully deserves all of that extra weight, and he was around 7-1. So those would be the ones for me elsewhere.
Okay, and that's our preview for Aintree. Before we get into our best bets of the meeting, just to let you know, the free-to-play 6 horses challenge is available every weekend with free spins on offer if you get 2 or 3 selections correct, and prize pools are available for 5 and 4 correct predictions, as well as the jackpot for all 6 T's and C's apply. So it's time for our best bets of the Aintree Festival, and Ed is once again walking to the crease first.
Absolutely. We're going to the 145, the 2 mile 4 handicap hurdle on the Friday. I'm going for an each way nap, if you like, 16-1. Favour and Fortune for the Hemmings colours, Alan King. Horse who was 3rd in the corresponding race 12 months ago. Perhaps not getting the clearest of passages. That was off 139, just a pound higher this time round. But the Alan King team, Daffodils have come out, a bit like the Daffodil factor. Henry de Bromhead has it, and I very much the belief Alan King has it in the moment. Yard just starting to hit top stride. This horse does enjoy Aintree. Yeah. The only other time he's ran it, the trap before that, he was runner-up to Jango Baie. So flat tracks, clearly his bag. Lovely comeback run after a small setback at Kempton in February. That was over 2.5. Absolutely tank round coming into the home straight. I was like, oh, hang on a minute here. You're going to show your hand too much. And then fell away and tired. Combination of fitness and probably the trip stretching him. Back to his happy hunting ground here. He's 16s each way. He's down £2. And a King Yard going well. A lot of ticks in the right boxes in my view. So each way 16-1. Favour and Fortune, my Aintree nap.
Excellent. Steve.
Yeah, we hear a lot on the Cheltenham preview circuit that Willie Mullins has worked out how to win the Triumph Hurdle. Well, he has. He's just particularly good with juveniles. So I think Selma Davari is a good price at 5-2 for the juvenile hurdle on the opening day. He's won it 3 times in the previous 9 renewals, all with fillies. She comes here after an eye-catching run in the Triumph. Before that, at Chasestone Narciso Haas. That's definitely going to set the standard in form. So 5-2, Selma Davari for me.
Okay, and first thing, I just want to get a runner. I've struggled to actually have a runner as my nap. I'm going for Strong Leader. I know Wudu is Steve's favourite, and I know she'll take all the beating, but Strong Leader comes here fresh. He's got an excellent record at Aintree. He was 2nd in the same race last year. He won it the year before. He was 2nd in the pocket in the Grade 1 as a novice, and he'd previously won his other race at Aintree, so he's got an excellent record. He's about 6-1 with Bet365. I don't think he'll be far away. He'll be the biggest challenger to Wudu. And at the moment, he's still relatively a decent enough each-way play. So that's Strong Leader for me, 6-1. Selma Davari for Steve, 5-2. And Favour and Fortune, 16-1 in the 2.5 mile handicap hurdle for Ed. Just before we close off, who's going to win the Masters?
Oh, well, I've got a book of 7, but I'm with Ram Kepka, they're my big 2. Or Akshay Bhatia if you want a long shot. Wonderful short game.
Nothing like a little wispy left-hander like I am.
Brilliant, yeah.
But Brooks
Dialed
Koepka,
in, dialed
all
in.
over Brooks Koepka. Steve, are you going to go to Aintree watching the Masters? Have a bet in the Masters?
Well, I've just backed Brooks Koepka because you've told me to. So,
If his putter works, he's a runner. Yeah.
There we go. And yeah, I should be at Aintree for all 3 days.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Racing Weekly, brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Thanks to Ed and Steve for joining me on the show this week. As always, if you liked what you heard or seen in this or any of our previous episodes, leave us a kind review on Apple Podcasts or in the comments section on YouTube. We're back to have a look at the Scottish National Meeting at Ayr next week in the company of Paul Ferguson. But from all of us here on Racing Weekly, have a lovely Grand National week. Bye-bye.